Super fight. It sells out the Staples Center. You make a fortune. But as I've said in every interview, if you get Tank or you get Pacquiao, I can't argue. If you don't, I think you should consider Devin Haney, personally, because I think it's a massive fight for massive money, and if you believe you can win... Oh, I know. Yeah, but then you should take the fight. If you don't get those other fights. But okay, I respect you for chasing... But if I do get it? Oh, I respect you. And I say 100% that was the right move for you. But if you don't, I would like you to consider Devin Haney. Okay, I will.
Toughest challenge would be, I think, against Devin Haney.
All the top lightweights, he makes the less money. You have the most followers, the most everything, but you make the less money. How does that make sense? How are you the money guy? He doesn't have a belt and he makes the less money. They want to fight you. People want to fight him. With no disrespect, I like Ryan. Me and Ryan, we got a lot of history together, and I like him. But they want to fight you because they feel like you have followers and you are the weakest link. That's what they feel.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So some of those clips I played spans back all the way 2 years ago. And you fast forward to present day, and not too much has changed. Devin Haney is still the most dangerous lightweight in the division. He's still the most avoided. Ryan Garcia is still perceived as the weakest link in the division. The only thing that has changed is now there's an additional fighter that everyone wants to fight because they feel is one of the weakest links, and that's George Kambosos. But the main reason is because old media keeps promoting George Kambosos as undisputed, leaving themselves wide open for a lawsuit, by the way, because that's defamation at its finest. It's extremely misleading to the public, especially when you have casual fans that don't know who the champions are. And you're telling new boxing fans that this man, George Kambosos, is the undisputed champion. You're basically telling fans that Devin Haney is not a champion. We don't acknowledge him as the WBC champion. You see, it's not the same thing as calling someone pound for pound the best fighter in the world. When you call someone pound for pound, that's extremely subjective. And now today, pound for old media just really means who the most popular fighter is in their eyes. Who do they like the most? That's what pound for pound means to them today. So they could put whoever they want on the top of that list. It doesn't matter. But it doesn't work the same way when you're calling someone undisputed and they're not. It's a flat out lie. It's misleading. And for old media members to do it, reporters to do it, it's unethical and it's unprofessional. With that being said, getting back to Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney. The question now is 2022, when is Ryan Garcia going to take off his training wheels? Immediately following the Luke Campbell fight with Ryan Garcia's own team, including Canelo Alvarez, his trainer, they all said that Ryan is not ready for a Tank Davis or a Devin Haney. That was a while ago. They said he would need a good 2 or 3 more fights, while, of course, all of them are ready for Ryan Garcia. Now today, Oscar De La Hoya, he just did an interview and he just admitted that Devin Haney is too dangerous. He said that's a dangerous fight for Ryan Garcia, but when he talked about Kambosos, he'd never called Kambosos dangerous, which means he's telling the public that Kambosos is an easier fight. Just like Devin Haney just said in that clip when he said everyone wants to fight Ryan Garcia because of his followers and because he's the easiest fight, right? But see, this is the thing. When people say followers, it's not his Instagram followers, it's his old media followers. Because the old media is the only ones that are watching his fights. Ryan's Instagram followers, they're not watching his fights, because if they were watching his fights, he would be on pay-per-view. Ryan Garcia, all of his fights would be on pay-per-view, no matter who he fought, just like Jake Paul. Because Jake Paul's followers, they watch his fights on pay-per-view. They pay for the fights. So if Ryan Garcia has over 8 million followers, that means he should have been able to at least get DAZN 1 million new subscribers, right? And if he could get 1 million of his subscribers to tune in and watch his fights, Imagine them putting that on pay-per-view, how much money DAZN is going to make. Because now, remember, DAZN is now putting fights on pay-per-view when it comes to paying Canelo Alvarez. But once again, Ryan Garcia's followers has not translated into DAZN subscribers. And you don't have to take my word for it. Oscar De La Hoya actually said that himself. So Oscar De La Hoya, he did this interview recently where once again, he was trying to say it in a nice way because once again, Ryan Garcia is his fighter. So he's trying to say it in the nicest way. The last time he said something out of pocket that he really felt was true, Ryan Garcia got pissed off and they had a fallout. So now in Oscar De La Hoya, he's very careful when it comes to hurting Ryan Garcia's feelings. But at the same time, he's still managing to tell the truth about the situation. This is what he said in a recent interview when he was asked when Ryan Garcia is going to fight Devin Haney. Check it out. And once again, pay attention to what Oscar says about Devin Haney and what he says about Kambosos by way of contrast.
I love that fight. Look, Jojo Diaz, Devin Haney, I was there sitting ringside watching this fight, and Haney's a very dangerous guy. He's very skilled. There's a lot of history with Ryan Garcia. That fight there, yeah, I can see that fight being a major blockbuster fight in time. Yeah, absolutely. I like Kambosos for Ryan Garcia after this fight, if everything goes well.
Why him lost?
Because he has all the belts, and it'll take Ryan Garcia straight to the top. Because I have a plan. I have a plan of I strongly feel that a Kambosos with Ryan Garcia next can be a major event in Vegas, but an even bigger event that is brewing can be against Haney or Tank. So I would love for Ryan to have all the titles first, and then unify. And so if the plan goes accordingly, we can have back-to-back major events and make Ryan Garcia the guy in boxing.
Okay, so what Oscar De La Hoya just said in microcosm is Ryan Garcia still is not ready for Devin Haney because he's too dangerous. He says, we like the Kambosos fight. Translation, that's an easier fight. And plus, you're going to get the majority of the belts for it. So yeah, it makes sense if you know that you have a fighter that is inferior to put him in there with easier opponents. Yeah, that makes sense if you know that guy, once again, is not on the level of a Devin Haney. I get it. Now, but see, this is the problem in boxing. You often hear promoters, boxers coming out telling the truth. Oh man, that Devin Haney, that's a dangerous fight. You heard Ryan himself say it. That's the toughest fight. Even other fighters, we know what it is when it comes to the MBF. You just heard David Benavidez's own promoter, Sampson. He said that the Andrade fight would be harder than a Canelo Alvarez fight. Before Jamal Charlo's last performance against Montiel, we heard Benavidez's father and trainer. He said the Canelo fight would be easier than the Charlo fight. The Charlo fight would be a very difficult fight because of Jamal Charlo's skill set, right? We hear this a lot when it comes to trainers and promoters. Who we don't hear this from is old media. Old media, they try to paint a complete different picture. If it wasn't for racism dominating the sport of boxing, when it comes to articles about Devin Haney, every article would start with something like the most avoided fighter in the division, the boogeyman of the division, Devin Haney, etc., etc., etc. We're not getting that. Instead, we're getting a repeat of history. They turn everything positive into a negative when it comes to fighters on the coincidental list. So instead of calling Devin Haney the most dangerous or the most avoided, they will write articles. They will literally write articles and call Devin Haney boring, trying to basically protect Kambosos from losing to him because they don't believe George Kambosos can beat Devin Haney, right? So instead of calling it what it is, they'll say that Devin Haney is boring. They'll say it makes no sense. It's unnecessary to fight Devin Haney. In fact, someone actually wrote an article, and the headline of the article, the title of the article, it was, and I BS you not, it was titled, quote, "It's unnecessary for Kambosos to fight Devin Haney now because the WBC president just said that Kambosos is the undisputed champion." That was the title of the article. But if that's the case and you're using that logic, then it's unnecessary for George Kambosos to fight anyone at 135, right? Especially somebody like Ryan Garcia, who doesn't even have a belt. So the translation is clear. Instead of being truthful like Oscar De La Hoya and like Ryan Garcia was when he said out of his own mouth that Devin Haney is the most dangerous or the toughest fight for him, instead of old media just being honest, they would rather discredit Devin Haney just to protect the fighters that they feel will most likely lose to Devin Haney, so they can keep winning against weaker opposition. NBF at the end of the day. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one. All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes, then this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called Elo Diki Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to elodiki.com, like them on Facebook, and follow them on Instagram. Fellas, I've got some great news for you. If you've lost your hair or have a receding hairline, the time has come when you can finally get your hairline back through a process called scalp micropigmentation. So here's how it works. It's a hair tattoo that replicates the look of your hair follicles when you have fully shaved it down. So to get this hookup, make sure you follow and contact my man Scalp Carolinas on Instagram.